Oh.
There you go.
He's got to go knock on the door.
No worries. Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to convene tonight's Urban Renewal Budget Committee. For the record, today is April 10th, 2025. The time is 6:28. And we'll go ahead and get started with the roll call.
Budget Committee member Bill Peterson is not present. Dave Hunt.
Here.
Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Scott Wilson.
Here.
Lori Arinello.
Here.
Damon Mabey.
Here.
Sherry Weber.
Here.
Chris Groner.
Here.
Julie Hernandez.
Here.
Denise McGriff.
Present.
Adam Marl.
Here.
Rocky Smith.
Here.
Doug Neely. And William Gifford.
Here.
Next, we'll have Mayor McGriff cover elections.
Yes, I just wanted to make a recommendation and a motion. So I'd like to move the following persons be elected for items A, B, and C. Mike Mitchell as chair, Dave Hunt as vice chair, and Lori Alinello as secretary.
Minute and put forward a candidate. I nominate Damon Mabey as chair.
I'd like to nominate William Gifford for secretary.
Okay. So if there's no
We have to do
second,
them one at a time,
Oh,
so
sorry.
is anybody going to second my motion?
okay, so if there's no second on the original motion, maybe we'll take them. Is there a second on the original motion by the mayor?
mayor's motion.
Okay.
We're talking about chair now.
Well, her motion was for all three positions.
Yes.
Okay, I will nominate Damon Mabey as chair.
No, there's a motion on the floor that we have to vote on. It's been moved and seconded.
So just
Well,
for a quick recap, the election.
I guess I had a problem with the process, actually, because you listed all three positions at the same time.
It says we can't. I checked.
So, call the word?
Okay, you want
All right.
to call the vote?
Dave Hunt.
Aye.
Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Lori Arinello.
Aye.
Damon Mabey. Sherry Weber. Chris Groner.
Aye.
Julie Hernandez.
Aye.
Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Adam Marl.
Aye.
Rocky Smith.
No.
Doug Neely.
Abstain.
William Gifford.
No.
Motion passes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will move on then to item number 4, approval of the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
Yes?
Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes?
There is one correction.
Doug?
Yeah, in the body there, when the last motion was put forward, it said for 2004 and 2004. It's 2004 and
If you
2005.
specify the page, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it right now.
I mean, I think I know where you're talking about, but because I saw
Yeah,
it.
it's on the last page of the minutes, under approval of urban renewal budget and approval property tax rates. In the
Oh,
body
yeah,
there of the
yeah, I
motion,
circled
it
that.
says 2004 and 2004, should be 2004 and 2005.
Not seeing it.
Okay, Mr. Lee indicates that he's got that correction. So are there any other corrections or additions? Okay, can we have a motion, please?
I move to approve as amended.
Second.
Dave Hunt.
Abstain?
Mike Mitchell.
Aye.
Scott Wilson.
Aye.
Lori Arinello.
Aye.
Damon Mabey.
Aye.
Sherry Weber.
Aye.
Chris Groner.
Aye.
Julie Hernandez.
Aye.
Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Adam Marl.
Aye.
Rocky Smith.
Aye.
Doug Neely.
Aye.
William Gifford.
Abstain.
Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 5, public comment. Are there any members of the public present here that would like to comment? Okay, seeing none, are there any online?
There are none.
Okay, no public comment, so we'll move on to item number 6, budget message from the budget officer, Mr. Conkle.
Thank you. Good evening, Urban Renewal Commission budget members. So tonight I'll be presenting the proposed July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2027 Oregon City Urban Renewal budget. The Oregon City Urban Renewal Agency's 25 through 27 proposed budget is balanced and has been prepared in accordance with Oregon budget law. For the period July 1, 2025 through June 30th, June 2027, the total budget is $14,254,800. The proposed budget presented reflects an incremental assessed value of $65,875,000 in the first year, which is approximately 25% of the full increment value, resulting in collections of approximately $1 million. For the second year, the budget reflects an incremental assessed value of $136,461,000, which is approximately 50% of the full incremental value of the district, resulting in collections of approximately $2.1 million. The proposed budget is funded by total biennial revenues of $3.8 million, excluding beginning fund balance. Tax increment increases are budgeted at 3% for each year of the biennium. Other revenue sources include income from property rentals and investment income. Projected spending for the biennium totals $14.2 million and is comprised of minimum operating and legal costs as well as capital projects. Finally, the budget includes costs to operate agency-owned rental properties. An operating contingency of $100,000 is available for appropriation to projects pending the Urban Renewal Commission's review. The downtown North End Urban Renewal Plan includes an estimated debt limit of $130.1 million as a maximum for urban renewal investment. That concludes the presentation concerning the urban renewal budget.
Okay, do we have anything from Mr. Zook?
Yes, I was just going to ask you that, Chair.
I will answer any questions as they come.
Okay. Questions?
There's a reason for me asking this question. As a the city's budget committee have they already met?
No, the city budget committee will meet in 2 weeks.
Okay, because personally, I would like to see the full increment applied, not a portion of the increment for the biennium in question.
I'm sorry, you'd like to see what?
The full increment, the full tax increment. We're at this 2072, that represents,
So the proposal is collecting 25% in the first year and 50% in the second.
yes, and I would like to see 100% in the second year.
Okay, I think that's a discussion for the budget committee to have.
Mr. Conkle, could you just give a little overview of what we did from last time for the new members who may not be aware that we did reduce the increment that we were collecting?
Correct. So the current urban renewal budget that we're operating under for 2023 through 2025, which we're currently in, the amount of TIF or the amount of tax increment collected in the first year was approved as 0, and then 25% was collected in the second year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that was a decision made by the commission itself, not by the budget committee.
That is correct.
And this is a budget committee, so I'm asking for the full increment in the final year of the biennium.
I understand. That's a discussion for the budget committee to have.
Mr. Chair, excuse me.
Mr. Gifford?
I didn't hear exactly. I didn't hear
Thank you.
all of what he said.
All of what, who said?
Doug, he said, Doug,
Doug?
I just want a clarification. So Doug, you're saying you want to recommend that we collect 100%
Yes,
for the 2 years?
for the final year.
Second year.
What happens to the first year?
Well, I'm not amending that.
You want to keep it at 25%?
Yeah.
And then the second year would be, okay, that's what I did not understand. Thank
Yes.
you for clarifying that.
Mr. Gifford?
I would expand on that idea and think we ought to consider collecting 100% for both years. The reason for that is that I I haven't seen a good rationale as to why not to collect that, that increment. It's going to wind up going to the other taxing entities when the district closes anyway, and I don't see an advantage of losing that leverage, of having those funds on hand to afford projects that we need done now. And I would really want to recommend that we collect the 100% for both years. I don't see a reason why we shouldn't. We, as I recall, we always have in the past, and it was just the last biennium that got split up, and it was never clearly explained to me as to what's the word?
Commissioner O'Donnell.
Advantaged. Who got the advantage? What's that?
Commissioner O'Donnell proposed that.
No, I understand who did it. I'm just not sure who it benefits. That's the word I'm looking for. Who does that benefit to not collect what we are owed? So, and I'm not even sure why Commissioner Neely would even suggest the 25% for the first year. Why not the whole 100% for both years?
Oh, I can support that.
I beg your pardon?
I'll support that.
Do we need a motion for that?
We haven't finished.
I don't know that
He
we're
said
quite
he
ready for
said you
that.
support it?
I support what he
Okay,
said.
all right. Because we're still having discussion.
Mr. Maybe.
Yeah, just want to be clear, and also for anybody who might be watching, when you say 25% and 50%, I'm just going to make it real simple. There's $100 available through taxation, and you're asking, your budget statement says the first year we should only take $25, and then the second year we should take $50, not 25 over 2 years for 50.
Correct.
Okay. And Commissioner, Mr. Neely and Mr. Gifford wanted to do $100 both years. That's okay. Just wanted to make that clear for people who will understand that.
Can I see another hand over here? No, okay. Commissioner Morrow.
Thank you, Chair. Just to clarify that clarification a little further, the taxes that we're referring to are taxes that are already going to be collected. So to be very clear for everyone who's watching and is sitting around here, because I know that I think this may have been an area that was not fully understood the last time that we did this, is that these tax dollars are going to be collected already. It's a matter of where they go.
Thank you, Adam.
I've got a question because I'm new. I still have a question, like Mr. Gifford over here. I don't understand why it was done differently before, why it was collected differently year to year instead of as much as it should split in half.
How long do you have?
I didn't know that that was going to be
I
an
think the
epic
city
novel,
manager can answer that.
but.
Do you want to answer that, or you want me to take a
I
stab?
can try, I can start the conversation. You can correct me when I'm wrong.
We weren't all in agreement, I will say that, but
So there's existing charter language that limits the ability for the urban renewal district to operate and spend funds. Any ability to take on debt for more than 1 year has to go to a vote of the people. There's been litigation around the urban renewal district paid off all the outstanding debt that exists. So essentially the district is debt-free. Litigation was brought forward to determine whether the district could collect revenue through the taxes when there is no debt. The Urban Renewal Commission, after the recommendation from the Budget Committee, decided to collect 0 in the first year and 25% in the second year. As to the rationale, whether it was to try to work with, to deal with the litigation or to show good faith, I can't explain that, but, that was kind of part of the conversation of why it was reduced to 0 and 25% in the existing budget. And others voted on this.
As I recall, part of the discussion also was, given the length of time that any of these projects take to come online, and at that time, there was really no proposals that had been put forth. So what were the chances of requirement for any funds in that first year? And we thought that was a pretty slim chance, given how long these things take to come together. So I think that was part of the discussion also. I've got a question for Mr. Zook. So we have $10 million roughly on hand, correct? Okay. Which, subject to the limitations of Chapter 59, we could spend on projects.
Yes.
Okay. In that first year, if we're at 25%, and if we were to not touch that 10 million, but go out for a bond and only use that 25% that we're collecting, which is $1 million, round numbers, how much could we afford to borrow and pay back off that $1 million?
Well, considering if you look at the budget, picking either of the years, there are some operating, there are some non-project costs. So if you look at agency administration and potentially the legal and consultant services, as I'm looking at the 2025-26 column, it's about $450,000. So $450,000 out of that million in the first year is going for legal, consultants, administration, the executive director, et cetera. So that would leave about $500,000, $550,000 to go towards other items. And I think if I understand your question correctly, you're asking how much of that could go towards debt. There's some variables that go into that. If the urban renewal district was to go and issue debt of 20 years at 7% interest, which is maybe a little high, but it's a rate we chose. At 6 million, they could borrow 6 million and they would end up paying $560,000 a year in debt service.
So just want to make sure I understand. So without touching our $10 million
Correct.
and only using the amount that we would generate at 25%, we could borrow $6 million on a 20-year bond. Right?
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the conversation. Could you say that again?
Okay. Just not spending the 10 million, only using the net of the $1 million after expenses, only putting that toward bond payments. We could borrow $6 million.
Correct.
Okay.
Over 20 years, which would
Okay.
which would encumber the agency to either pay that off over 20 years, or at some point pay it off sooner. But under those terms that I chose as an example, 7%, 20 years, $6 million would generate a $560,000 a year debt service payment.
Okay.
All right. But
Thank you.
if we collected 100% over these 2 years, we'd collect $8 million because we get $4 million a year.
Correct.
So there'd be no need for the $6 million bond. In fact, we'd have $2 million surplus and no debt.
But we'd still need approval, correct? We have to go out to vote.
For a bond.
Whether or not, anything over 1 year, that's one of the wrinkles of Chapter 59. It uses the state language of what is bonded indebtedness, and bonded indebtedness is anything over 1 year. So we could not enter into an agreement of longer than 1 year, even intending to pay it out of our $10 million, without going to a vote of the people.
But if the amount of money we intend to spend is $6 million, and we collected the $6 million, then there's no indebtedness.
As long as we spend it in less than a year.
Which isn't likely with projects.
We wouldn't need to. Indebtedness doesn't, indebtedness as far as a commitment to pay somebody money. It's not, indebtedness in this instance doesn't necessarily mean borrowing.
Right. But if we add $8 million to our coffers, then we have $18 million, well, less whatever we're spending. Then we have $18 million to write a check for something that year.
It's, you know, you're looking at it as established debt. I'm looking at it from the standpoint, we've got several properties that I regard as, that we own, the Urban Renewal Agency owns, that is going to need a substantial input in order to make them even buildable. And so that's what I'm basically talking about, is money to be spent by us, not for debt purposes, but actually when we identify all these problems that we have in our properties, to be able to quickly make those buildable lots, which they are not. They are actually, and so that's the point he was making, and that's the point I'm making.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
If I could
Mr.
ask a
Wilson?
question. Yeah, thank you. So ostensibly, there's a reason why the proposed biennial budget suggests or again, proposes 25% the first year, 50% the second year. I would be curious to know what those reasons are. What informed that decision to put that in the budget?
Sure, I think there's a couple things when Matt and I were talking about this, as well as some of the, the direction and the steps that have been taken at Urban Renewal. I think that, for one thing, so that everyone's aware, that the charter limits the ability for the Urban Renewal Agency to enter into any agreements for more than 1 year. Okay, so it's very, very difficult to do any legitimate project and spend money, because the money would need to be spent within 1 calendar year, or it needs to go out to.
Without a vote, you mean?
Okay,
Because we could.
can I just finish, and then you guys can fire away all you like. I do not need a vote if the money is spent less than 1 year. If it is more than 1 year, it needs to go to a vote of the people. The second part is that right now, the increment projected to bring in is about $4.1 million a year to the district. So that would mean that after 2 years, if the district continues to not spend money on projects, which has been what has happened over the last several years, there'll probably be about $19 million in the Urban Renewal Fund. It's really hard for me to recommend collecting $4 million a year when we have no plan on how to spend it, no plan how to address moving forward, and no projects on the table that are ready to go. The last Urban Renewal Commission meeting, when we were reviewing how does urban renewal move forward, the direction from the commission was to identify a project and take it to the voters. It's hard to see how that would happen within 2 years. So, we identify a project, we identify funding, we go out to a vote, then you gotta go do the project. So there's probably some type of either finding a public-private partnership, or if we're gonna lead that process, to find someone to do the building, you've got to get through entitlements, you have to get through planning, engineering. So it was in response to collecting significant amounts of money that are just gonna sit there and collect interest, in my opinion, moving forward.
Mr. Gifford?
I understand that logic, Mr. Conkle, but I would counter with the concept that somewhere along the line, in the next decade, we're going to want to invest some money in our city. The Urban Renewal District is going to want to invest some money in our district. It doesn't make sense to me not to start collecting that money in anticipation of when we can do it, either through a vote or through a determination of the possible unconstitutionality of that measure that we passed. But for us not to take the opportunity to collect the money when we can doesn't seem prudent to me.
That's up to the budget committee to decide. We went to a vote and it failed. So we've had a voter initiative, put the charter limitation in. We had a second voter initiative, put the charter amendment in that expanded it, that was found to be unenforceable. Went out to a vote to spend money, it failed. It's up to the budget committee to decide how much of the increment to collect. So this is the proposal that I put forward.
It's not costing the Oregon City taxpayers any more or less funds to go ahead and have that money collected.
No, it's just going to sit there, though.
Yes, can be sitting there, and it's like saying, why do you have a bank account? You have a bank account for when you need the money. And when you need the money is not say, oh, gee, I wish I would have collected more money back then when we had a chance. And I understand that's up to the budget committee.
I just wanted one point of clarification. This is a question I asked Mr. Zook, and everybody might want to know the answer. My question was, if whatever we decided today for the 2 years, could we come back in a year and change that amount or that percentage? And the answer is no. We have to provide a number to the assessor that's for 2 years, and we cannot revise it. So just for that information. And there was a comment over here. Mr. Maybe?
There we go. I have a couple of questions for you, Tony. First, you say that there's no expenses program, but there's $6.5 million of capital outlay in the budget. So what are those?
If the Urban Renewal Commission decides to move forward with a project, those funds would be available for them to use without coming back and amending the budget.
Okay, so those
it's a holding line.
Okay, that's fine.
For some unidentified future project consistent with the plan.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess the second one goes to the failed ballot measure, or the failed funding request. It was for $44 million, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If we had $20 million already in the bank, it would have been a $24 million request. That's a much easier bite than 44. It's also, if we ended up with $40 million in the bank, it would have been a zero request because we would have spent 40 and collected 4 that year, and it would have been paid for. So there wouldn't have been a need to go out to a vote to the people. Well, it would, because it would have been multiple years. But we could have said, we have this money and need to spend it. Do you agree with this project that will cost you nothing? As opposed to, we want to do this project and it's going to cost $44 million, but you won't feel it. I mean, that's a whole different message. And when I look at the 7 items that you have for potential capital projects, one of them's $250 million, of which we need to write up 20 million. We don't have that. If somebody shows up again with, Cabela's 2.0.
Please don't say that.
I guess the problem is that it's not
that from the
That's
record.
what brings it up.
whether we have the cash in hand or not, we can only take on what debt we can.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was 40 million, which is what we asked for, which is what $3.1 million at the interest rates at the time would have paid for, it's the same ask. I still had to get voter approval for $40 million, whether I have 40 million in cash or I'm gonna bond it based on the increment created over the 30 years.
But the fiscal impact statement would have said 0.
I would have to ask for 40, I'd have to ask for the authorization to spend $40 million. I can't say it's gonna be 0.
But when you put together spending bills, bonds, there's the little line at the very bottom that says fiscal impact. And that's, how much money needs to be gathered. And it would be 0. But anyway, that's for the committee. I'm kind of going a little afield, but I'm just saying, I guess in general, that I support the 100% because cash on hand is cash you can spend. Cash you got to wait 2 years to gather or a year to gather is, makes people walk to another location. Real quick, no, this isn't the right time. I do have something about the budget document for later, but go ahead.
Mr. Chair?
Lori,
Okay.
and then I was me.
This commission did make an agreement to move forward with some sort of targeted ask to the public within this budget year. I think we need to build the capacity to do so, both budgetarily and community support-wise. I think we need the capacity to do a good project, an affordable project that will build trust with the community and will continue to shepherd and snowball our ability to spend money. But without first building that trust on a project that's manageable, that we can complete, that will impact very little bit of tax dollars, is where this organization needs to go. So I don't quite support the 100%, maybe 65%, 2 years. Continue building some capacity.
Mayor McGriff?
Yes, I feel that we did make a decision as the commission to move forward a project. As some of you know, so let me back up too. So I'm assuming that all of the new members of the budget committee have read the urban renewal plan, or at least know what the projects are that are in the plan, because that is what we amended. That is what we are moving forward. We're working on trying to get the Stimson property ready to go to market, and there's going to need some additional monies. I have, in the last month or two, as people knew we were going to be meeting with the commissioners, which we did Tuesday, to talk about the courthouse. Now, I don't know what that number is. I don't know what the proposal that they received, if they received more than one proposal, but I think we need to have some money in the bank and come up with a number, the city come up with a number, whatever we think that might be. Because even though we have business owners downtown who say, we don't want any taxpayer assisted money, whatever happens to that property is going to need some assistance. I don't feel it's going to be able, somebody's not going to come out of midair and go, oh, I can finance the whole thing myself. I think we have some momentum. I agree with you, Lori, that we have momentum going. People feel strongly about the redevelopment of either the building, the site, and I think, again, this is a project that I think the community can get behind, and we can allocate some money to that, not tonight, but in the future, so that we have bankable dollars sitting there to assist, because it's not going to happen by magic. And we know that's going to be over multiple years, but if we have enough increment sitting there to help do the other little projects that we have, plus this particular project downtown, I think that we will be far ahead. And so I don't agree with collecting zero. I don't agree with collecting 25%. I think that number needs to, I could support 100. I could support 75, but I'm not wanting to go back to where we were before. And I know that I was reluctant to support the recommendation from our former commissioner, but we needed to move on, and we were going around and around and around with the votes. I mean, it was multiple votes. So I think that whatever we do, we need to collect the increment. We need to move forward with putting something on the ballot to support the Clackamas County Courthouse redo, whatever that is going to be, and get a project going, because we know it can happen.
Mr. Morrow?
I'll wait.
Yeah, my hands have been up for a while.
Sorry.
I want to make clear what I think I'm talking about in terms of bulk of money. I'm not arguing the case on projects, but we own land that's unbuildable. We've got the land next to the cove. It's in the floodplain. We've talked about improving the cove and using soil there to go and take it out of the floodplain. We got the Stimson property, which we know is contaminated. We need to do work there. 12th and Main, there are issues there too. I'm talking about while we own that land, we make the investments. Once we make those investments, we may not have to go anywhere. It's a buildable piece of property. A developer might come and take it as it is without having us to go to those. And that's my major point, that those are monies we can use to make unbuildable land that we own buildable.
Mr. Morrow?
Thank you, Chair. So I sympathize with the point that we need to build trust with the voters before we go out and do stuff. But I would also add that of the successful projects in the past that has been used with urban renewal, it's not as though those are given credit by the public either, because they don't understand that urban renewal did that. And so while I heavily sympathize with the proof of concept term that Commissioner O'Donnell would talk about, and I think that it's worth exploring. I don't know that we can necessarily expect people to then become excited about urban renewal as though they will understand the function of tax increment financing. So I wanted to say that first. Second, just building off of the background that was given for the last budget, I originally supported the 100% collection both years, but felt it was important to compromise on what we came to at the city commission adoption. And the reason I did was because of what the city manager has talked about, the legal questions and the question over state preemption. I know it was mentioned at one of our last meetings that there are many people who know more about preemption than I do, and I will be the first to admit that. But what was unfortunate for the person who had made that comment was that of the many people who know more about state preemption than me, the one person whose opinion matters the most, which is the judge who decided that case, happened to find that section of the charter unenforceable. And so now that we've decided that going out for a vote is something that we would like to do, I am more open to getting closer to that 100% spot for each year.
Can I make a quick clarification after Mr. Wilson?
Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you. So I just want to comment about a couple things. So this idea of proof of concept and your comments about the public being able to understand the function of the TIF, right, of the tax increment financing. I don't think that's what's important. I think what's important is people being able to see, to see this is what urban renewal dollars did, right? Not understanding how tax increment financing works and kind of this back end, but being able to see this is what your money did for our community. And I think that's what's important, and the messaging and the effort that the city puts into showing this is what we did with urban renewal money. So I think, this is my opinion, I don't know if our community has a lot of faith in urban renewal and our ability to push forward projects. So when it comes to collection, my question is, if we choose to collect less than 100%, does that send a message to our community that we aren't even taking urban renewal very seriously because we're choosing not to collect money that would push it forward? So my thoughts are, why would we not collect 100% and then use cash, use money that wouldn't require any indebtedness to push forward projects that people can see, make it visible, and help people understand this is what urban renewal did, and then use that to build trust within the community to then push forward more ambitious projects that are going to require some indebtedness.
So just
Member Griff?
Yes, just a clarification. So Doug, I didn't want you to misunderstand. I meant the other projects there and the property that we own. Because one of the things that the Urban Renewal Commission did when I was chairing is that we said we were going to concentrate on our properties first, and then if something else came up, and so the something else is the courthouse. So I can see those working together in conjunction with moving those things forward, because again, we are trying to get the property closer to being shovel ready so that somebody can come in. Now, the Stimson property, if I was going to be proposing on it, I would still do my own due diligence and do all that, even though we've done some cleanup, we've done this, we've done that, we've done a number of other things to get that property ready. And I think that's just a responsible property owner does things like that. But by and large, again, thank you for mentioning the Cove, which we're doing the study there. So very soon we will know what's going on with it and what's causing the algae bloom or not, or whatever's going on down in the bottom with the siltation. So we're gonna have information that we can help move those sorts of things forward. So thank you for allowing me to make the correction, because I support the plan and the projects that we have listed in the plan.
Mr. Hunt?
I have a follow-up question for Mr. Conkle. If I heard you correctly, it seemed as though, and this is, I will confess, yes.
Yeah.
This is all new to me, I'll confess, but it seems like your case was that increasing collections now wouldn't necessarily help pass a measure before voters. I guess my question is the inverse. Do you see any scenario where collecting more now would hurt chances of passing something to voters?
I don't think it's hard. I mean, I get where Damon's coming from. You can sit there and say you have all cash, but you still need the voter approval for the amount. I guess if you collect enough cash, you don't have to pay interest on the debt. I guess that's a plus. I think the hard part is you still have for any significant realistic project in this town, you have to go to a vote. It's not going to happen in 1 year, right? And so it's just hard to imagine 2 years from now, sitting on $18-19 million in cash. And if that's the way the urban renewal wants to go, is to try to create a cash fund and pay as you go. I mean, that's not how urban renewal is designed to work. It would be a way to do it. So I don't know that it's not a negative. It's a allocation of resources that are available, and how much money are we comfortable sitting on, and not getting out the door into projects.
Ms. Harnell?
With that commitment we kind of made this year with us going to the public, I think, again, to focus on a reasonable, attainable project that we could tee up in the next 2 years so we can put it to a vote is important. I know the courthouse was mentioned and it should be a spearheaded project, but whether or not this organization is ready to move forward with that being our champion project, I don't know. I don't even think Oregon City knows that. So I would think it would be important for us to invest more on the projects we have on our docket, which is the Cove, which is the end of the Oregon Trail project. Those are attainable projects that the community is familiar with that I think could be championed very easily and get support. And I think the funding that we collect in these next couple of years can very easily be used effectively for projects that are already on our docket.
Mr. Gifford?
Chair Mitchell, it seems to me, and this is just my interpretation, that we've pretty much exhausted the arguments on the pros and cons, and I'd like to know if it would be acceptable for me to make a motion.
That's always acceptable.
Then I would like to make a motion that the Urban Renewal Commission Budget Committee moves to collect the 100% TIF over the next biennium.
Second. Okay. Hey, can you hang on for 1 second? I want to make sure that everybody understands and that the motion is worded properly. What this body is doing is making a recommendation to the Urban Renewal Commission or to the City Commission?
Urban Renewal Commission.
Okay. So make sure your motion reflects that is making a recommendation to the Urban Renewal Commission.
I agree.
And you said
the seconder
100%
agrees.
both years?
Just restate it for the
Yeah,
record.
restate it.
To restate the motion, I move that the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission Budget Committee recommend to the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission to collect 100% of the urban renewal TIF that's available for the next biennium.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion, Commissioner Morrow?
Yeah, so I just want to go back in response to Commissioner Wilson, because I absolutely agree. My point from my previous comment wasn't so much that we need for residents to understand tax increment financing, but that more than that, we still aren't able to have shown the success in those projects, which is exactly what you're talking about. The important thing that we need to do is show how those projects are connected. And what I'm saying is that hasn't happened with the things that have already occurred is the struggle. And so that's why I have a hard time with the argument that we need to do another small project to build up support for everything else, as though people aren't just going to think that a private developer did something all by themselves, which is what I'm pretty sure people think happened at Hilltop. I'm sure people think that's what happened down on Main Street with all the improvements there. They don't know that that was from urban renewal, and despite the successes of those, it has not gone through to them that it is because of urban renewal that has occurred, is the point that I was trying to make.
Understood. And I would argue that it's the responsibility of the Urban Renewal Commission to make sure that that message is heard and received by the public. And I think that we could probably do a better job on that.
Absolutely, and there's no disagreement there.
Yeah, I want to concur with Commissioner Morrow in the fact that we do have some successes. And I think that they need to be, again, we don't do a very good job on any aspects of stuff, about bragging about stuff that we do that's been good. And downtown would not have become a performing Main Street or received a Main Street award without the improvements that were done in 2012 to make it more hospitable and better. Those are the things that we need to continue to champion and to basically talk about. Yes, there were a few kerfuffles, but yes, every urban renewal district that I've ever been employed by has had some kerfuffles, but there's more successes. So I would support moving us, the discussion forward to the vote, and unless there's somebody else that has something to say, but I would call for the question.
I would remind the Urban Renewal Commission members that there was a discussion about the grant system that they sent up. Because you cannot enter into an agreement for more than 1 year, you could not do the adaptive reuse grant. So you were going to under collect in the district to the benefit of the general fund to be able to fund that program.
Right.
Collecting 100% means that that fund will have to be paid for out of the general fund, which funds are extremely limited, as you are aware.
And we had a very short timeline, so I would support us making some money available so that we can continue that and people will have more time to apply.
The question has been made.
I know.
Okay, the question's been called. Mr. Lee?
Dave Hunt,
Aye.
Mike Mitchell,
No.
Scott Wilson,
Aye.
Lori Arinello,
No.
Damon Mabey,
Aye.
Sherry Weber,
Abstain.
Chris Groner,
Aye.
Julie Hernandez,
Aye.
Denise McGriff,
No.
Adam Marl,
Aye.
Rocky Smith,
No.
Doug Neely,
Aye.
William Gifford.
Aye.
With 8 votes, the motion passes.
And just really quickly, this is a recommendation to the Urban Renewal Commission, which could drop it to 90% or whatever to make that money
Exactly.
available for the city.
Yes, that's very true.
We've set the bar, and they can lower it as necessary.
Okay,
Real quick.
thank you all.
If I may, I know this part's done. I have a request for the budget document, and I don't know at what point I should ask that, so.
Let's see, we're going to go on to approving the tax rate, so let's, are we,
We just did that.
No.
no, we need a,
Can we just take 5 minutes real quick? I think we need a motion on the actual
amount.
value of the district that we would turn into the tax assessor to collect off of, because we gave you the valuations at 25 and 50. We need the valuation at 100%. Is that
so
correct?
does your question relate to
It does
their?
not.
It does not, okay,
It
we'll wait
relates
on
to the
that then.
regular budget?
What do you need, 5 minutes? 10?
More than that.
What do you need?
Call it 10. That gives us
Yeah,
all
just
time
give
to
us
hit
10.
the restroom.
Well,
Yeah,
we'll adjourn till 7:30?
that's plenty, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're back at 7:30.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He was,
but the name sounds familiar, but I'm trying to remember what department he worked in.
he seemed to do outreach stuff, but I don't know if he was just doing it as like an engineer or whatever. But he was my neighbor, that's why.
Oh, okay.
Uh-oh, we got.
Okay, I will call us back to order. Mr. Zook and Mr. Kunkel, back over to you.
Yeah, I want to show the, so thank you. So what we've done is prepared the motion for the 2-year biennium with the total amount and indicating that the maximum amount will be withheld or sent to the Urban Renewal District agency. And then we also have what the revised budget is. We have that one we can flip over to real quick.
Close your eyes.
So now this is the revised budget, increasing what essentially the amount collected going into capital outlay in the amount of the $19,666,700.
So at the end of the 2-year period, 2-year biennium, the approximate balance would be that $18.5 million that's in capital outlay if none of it was spent. Whatever, and that's how much the agency would have on hand during this biennium to spend on a capital project.
And that subtracts out expenses, but
That's net
does
of
not
operating.
include any expense for any projects.
That 18.5 is just for projects. It's net of operating. It would be net of operating
Okay,
expenses. So that 18.5, by virtue of it being on the capital outlay line, essentially says this is what could be spent on a project.
understood.
Or multiple projects.
Thank you. Any questions on what we have here? Okay. So you need a motion worded slightly differently?
So can we flip back to the other slide?
Okay, so that's the wording you want for the motion?
Correct, please.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion and read that?
So this motion not only does it may be a repeat of what was already done, but this is the formal motion that needs to happen because this also approves the amount of the budget, which changed to that $19,667,000. Essentially, I would consider what happened here was a pre-vote. We didn't expect it to take the place of this, though, so.
Understood.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion.
Mr. Gifford?
I move that the Urban Renewal Commission, can we approve or don't we?
Recommend to.
Read it as it says, don't try to have like.
Well,
Do you understand the question?
yeah, I do.
Wanted to make a recommendation to the Urban Renewal Commission, just like
The
Should it say approve or should it say
2025-2027 urban renewal biennial budget of $19,667,700 to be forwarded to the Urban Renewal Commission for adoption, and establish the maximum amount of tax from the division of taxes shall be levied for the fiscal year 2025-26, and establish that the maximum amount of tax from the division of taxes shall be levied for the fiscal year 26-27 by dividing the taxes under Section 1C, Article 9 of the Oregon Constitution, ORS Chapter 457.
Second.
Okay, moved and second, and any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Okay. Mr. Lee?
Dave Hunt,
Aye.
Mike Mitchell,
Aye.
Scott Wilson,
Aye.
Lori Arinello,
Nay.
Damon Mabey,
Aye.
Sherry Weber,
Abstain.
Chris Groner,
Aye.
Julie Hernandez, Denise McGriff,
No.
Adam Marl,
Aye.
Rocky Smith,
Aye.
Doug Neely,
Aye.
William Gifford.
Aye.
With 10 votes, the motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mabey?
Yes, I'd like the budget document to have an addition to it. I'm kind of surprised that the mayor didn't cotton onto this, but one of the things that when we were on the planning commission, we always objected to was not having all the information available at the source and having to go to other locations to find things. And in the budget document, under the highlights, capital outlay represents the balance of available funds as identified in the urban renewal plan. It's only 3 pages to put those 7 items in this budget document. So if somebody looks at the budget document, they would say, this is what the capital outlay is for. They're identified. I felt.
I thought it was linked to it,
It
to
is
the
not.
plan. Okay, that's
And so I
that's on
would
me.
like to have the section 1000 added to the budget document, either as an appendix or just directly, in your statement. I don't know how it would be, or just 3 more pages. But that's, I think it makes the budget document more complete, because right now it's, what are these capital outlays? They're invisible. And now I have to go get on a computer or drive to City Hall and look these things up when it could be right here. So that's just a personal preference, but I think it improves the document.
That happened.
Mr. Conklin, Mr. Zook, can we do that? And I don't think there's suggestion is to put the whole plan in there, it's just to put in the project list.
Well, section 1000.
Understood?
Yes?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the plan should be referenced somewhere, or at least click on the link in case somebody wants to read it,
Okay.
which people should have done.
Anything from any of the committee members before we adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
It's only, it's not even 8 o'clock yet. I know.
It's still light outside.
Let's just take a voice vote on that. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? We're adjourned.
And it's not dark.